Welcome to our channel Rayofhope, and this is going to be another day for our web application penetration testing. Where there, today we are going to cover error-based blind SQL injection. Guys, you know what? Today you need to pay your attentions. Like you really need to know that I always talk about one thing: how to identify the vulnerability. That means identifying is more important than exploiting the vulnerability, right? So over here, we all know when we talk about blind SQL injection, we are talking about balancing the equation part. First, we need to confirm if the application that we are going to test on, is it vulnerable for SQL injection? And if it is vulnerable for SQL injection, what kind of SQL injection it is vulnerable for? If it is vulnerable for union based, if it is vulnerable for time based, or if it is vulnerable for blind injection, what kind of, right? Or second order. So that identifying is more critical than exploiting, because once you are able to identify the vulnerability, exploiting it become easy, right? So over here, I'm not going to read the description. There's no need to. In this module, there is a cookie parameter which is vulnerable for injection attack. That we would be covering over here as well, right? So all I'm gonna do, just to turn on my intercept, I'll then turn, seems my internet is not that good for today. That's fine. So turn on the proxy. Let's wait for a while. Okay. Okay, before that, I need to show you something. When we were performing union based, and the lab used to seems like this, right? Application. But over here, if I click lifestyle or any of the category, I'm not having any welcome message. If you can see, okay, it is taking a bit longer. Yes, there you go. You couldn't see any welcome message. That is giving us any sort of hint, right? Okay, so I'm not going to talk about this right now. Turn on the intercept. Intercept the data. I got it. Just send it to the repeater because we wanna save our HTTP request. Turn off the intercept. Get back to Chrome. Turn off the proxy. And we are done. Now we have our request captured in repeater. So we all know the first step is to identify the vulnerability, is to figure out what code, what syntax balances the equation. So over here, we all know that this parameter is not vulnerable for SQL injection, and we have tried actually. Okay, so in this lab, I'm not going to talk about that because it will take a hell lot of time. Over here, cookie, a parameter called tracking ID equal to this value, is vulnerable for SQL injection. So if I like to do anything, this, what I'm getting? Nothing. I don't have any response over here. I can see a welcome kind of message in the response, right? So if I do like a Rayofhope instead of the cookie that they were using, tracking ID actually, I used Rayofhope. What response I'm going to get? 200 okay. 200 okay. Which isn't something related to SQL, right? So now we know something called we have like a balancing the equation, which is single quote, double quote, single quote, close braces, double quote, close braces. Remember these words actually. This is really important. So if I just do single quote and hit send, what I'm getting in the response, an internal server error, which could be a good news. Again, this is something an internal server error, which may indicate that it could be potentially vulnerable for SQL injection, but not sure for what kind of SQL injection. We are not sure for what kind of SQL injection it is vulnerable for. So now what we would be doing over here, as we already know, we are performing the blind injection right now. So now we are not going to waste our time checking for union. In blind, we know two things. We have to take true and false statement. And if we are having these responses, true and false, we could identify, and based on that, we can craft the payload or syntax to achieve our goal. Now, when we talk about true and false, so we have one syntax called single quote and 1 equals to 1, which is a universal truth. There you go. I'm having 200 OK, which is obvious because the query is written is universal truth. So if single quote balances the equation, we would be getting that. But what if I'm going to use double quote? What response I'm going to get? 200 OK. If I say this, what response? 200 OK. Means in no base we are not able to identify. There's one thing that you can see. If I'm using like a double quote close braces and hit enter, we have 200 OK. If I'm using like what we call this, single quote close braces and hit send, it's giving an internal server error. It could be that the single quote is the only parameter which is balancing the equation. But can you see something amazing? Have you noticed something that is unusual? Every other parameter that we are using giving us 200 OK. If I'm using single quote, I'm getting an internal server error, which confirms that the developer written query is in single quote, right? Okay. But if I'm going to do and 1 equals to 2, which is a false statement, so what response I'm going to get? Let's wait for a while. Okay, hyphen. Comment out is needed. It is giving 200 OK. This is not a universal truth. Still we are getting 200 OK. Now we are confused because the true and the false statement that we talk about is not working over here. That's how do we identify, right? Because somehow the syntax that we are writing is truth. This is a SQL syntax, which is a correct syntax, right? So now we have this. But what if instead of giving any true condition or false condition, I'm then just gonna do like a single quote hyphen to comment out the next part of the code? What response I'm going to get? It is still giving 200 OK. Amazing, right? What if I'm gonna use double single quote? It is still giving 200 OK. So inputs like single quote hyphen or single quote, those are the valid part of SQL query. So database doesn't throw an error, and that still gives us 200 OK. But wait, we just saw that single quote is accepted, right? That means the input is being treated as a part of valid SQL string, which is a good thing. So what if we try to concat the statement? We know one thing in SQL, that we use this concat statement, which is you can say or and or. Let's do that. So if I'm going to use something like this, single quote concat select single quote close concat and then single quote and hit enter. What is happening? It is taking time. Oh, there you go. It is still giving us an internal server error. But why are we getting this error? Okay, it could be that concat statement may not be used by the application, or it could be two, that the application may be using some other database like Oracle. And we know that when we use Oracle database, we with select statement we need to specify the table as well. Without table, you could not complete the query. So in this case, what I'm gonna do, I'll be using from dual. And why did I use this dual? For that, I would recommend you to go ahead and watch our video on Oracle database SQL injection, which I have already made it. And for that, you have notes too. And there you go. We have 200 OK. That is something cool, right? Because now we are able to balance the equation. So instead of dual, if I use Rayofhope table, that we know that doesn't exist in the database. So what I'm going to get an internal server error. Now we are on the situation where there true and false statement coming in action. Cool, right? So now we are able to identify that this is 100% vulnerable for blind SQL injection, error-based blind SQL injection, right? So now we have this much information. So as we have confirmed that dual is there, and we know there is one user called one table called users. So what I'm gonna do, users, and hit enter. So what I'm going to get, it's an internal server error. But why did I get an internal server in this case? It is still a question, because when we use select single quote from users gives an error even though users table exists. Like let's understand this actually. If the users table that we have, but before that we are using concat statement, right? So if this statement that we are using, this is a blank, okay? So doesn't matter how many columns it has, this will try to retrieve all the information, and the concat statement will fail over there. So suppose if this table has more than one column, then this will fail, right? Therefore we have this error actually. So in this case, what we can do? So we can use something called select single quote from users, or we can use bare clause. You might, for that you can also refer to our previous video. Bare clause, and we have something called one of the syntax in Oracle Cloud, Oracle database, which is row num. I can specify equal to 1 and then hit send. So what I'm going to get this time, let's wait for a while. 200 OK. You got it? Why did I get 200 OK? Even though the users table used to, what does this row num do actually? The row num is specifying or telling the user to get only one column. No matter how many columns it has, but it is calling one column, therefore this command becomes truth. So this confirms now that the users table also exists in the database. So now as we specified and we know that the users table exists, so what if I am going to use something like this, like select from users where username equals to administrator, single quote, as it is a string type, it must be in single quote, and hit enter. It is giving us 200 OK, which is good. But what if I'm gonna use Rayofhope or any other random name? It is still giving us 200 OK. That means again, this is not giving us it is not confirming if Rayofhope exists in the database username or the administrator or the both. Or I can use like anything, anything, and then hit. It is still giving us 200 OK. Why? Because again, we are not specifying one column. It could be because we are user tables have everything, right? And then therefore it is not able to execute it. And if it is not getting executed, then it will not throw an error. Because in SQL there is a rule. When this part will execute first, and then the second part will execute. So if this doesn't even exist, then it will not get executed, and if it will not get executed, it will not throw any error. Again, it seems it is getting complicated, right? Because even though we were able to balance the equation, we are not able to play with the error and 200 OK right now. Because in those both cases, I am having 200 OK. So what next? We need to find out if the administrator user exists or not. So for that, I can use something called case when statement. So when we talk about case when statement, you need to remember this actually. Before I'm going to write the query, I would be telling this. Case when. This is being used. It is a logical condition which is always true. If you replace with 1 is equal to 0, 0 equals to 1, the behavior will get changed actually. Then we have to car. Basically, it forces and divide by 0 actually, and confirms if the condition is true or not. Then the else, you might have heard about else if in SQL. This is basic only. You can just do and go and learn from W3 schools as well for a broad understanding about SQL. Let's understand this. Like in SQL, there is a command called else if. We are going to use else over here. This is a else if statement. If this statement is false, then it just return an empty or string quietly, means 200 OK. No error, no noise, just normal response. And then there is an end. In basically, whenever we use the case when statement to close this statement, we use end actually. So I hope the basic would be clear, not to get confused, right? Let's walk this way. So once we identify this, we have one command actually. Let's figure out what we can do with this. Single quote, again concat statement. Select case when. I just told you about case when. Condition 1 equals to 0, which is a false statement. Then 2 character, which would be what? Divided by the 0. Close it. Again else statement. If those conditions true, it will return. Either if it is false, then it will give us 200 OK. Else single quote in from doer. Close it. Concat statement. And then again single quote. Hit enter. $200 Why? We know that this is a false statement. Therefore, over here I just talk about else statement. It will divide by 1 to create the error. But else statement confirms if it is error, it will silently give us 200 OK. But what if I am gonna use 1 equals to 1, which is a true statement? What response we are going to get? It is taking much longer. We have an internal server error. It seems we are again on the right path. We know that there is a virtual table called dual exists in the database. Now, we are finally on the right path. We again balance the equation and we are having true and false statement. We got an error because the condition was true. And when the condition was true, we divided by 0, which confirms that a SQL query being executed and the application is vulnerable for error-based SQL injection. Now, as we understand this functionality, what we need to know now? We need to figure out if the administrator user exists or not. For that, we would be using again the same command, case when. So what we are going to do now? We will be using this from users. From users again where clause. Where clause, you would specify username equals to single quote administrator and close braces and hit enter. So what I'm going to get this time? An internal server error, because as per the above theory that we covered in previous case, because this was the true statement, now we have got an error. That means it confirms that the administrator exists in the database. Username administrator exists in the database. If I use another name like Rayofhope and hit send, what I'm going to get? 200. Okay. We know that a Rayofhope would not exist in the database. Therefore, again, always remember, in SQL query, first it will get executed, then this will get executed. So if it is not there, then it is not even getting executed. So then why it would throw an error? Because over here, two catch statement converting only if the statement was true. And that is how we are getting an internal server error. So as of now, we confirm that the table called user exists, username called the administrator exists. We confirm till now that actually. So that's a big thing, right? So in next part, what we are going to do, we have we need to identify if the length of the passport. What was the length of the passport? So for that, how we gonna do so actually? We would be using same command. Select case when 1 equals to 1, which is true, always true, then car 1 divided by 0, else single quote, and from users where username equals to administrator, and for the same actually, we are trying to figure out length of the password. So I will be using AND statement, LENGTH, length, password, close the braces, greater than 1. So if it would be greater than 1, it would give us, it is taking time, an internal server error. But what if I'm gonna use like 30? The length of the passport is 30 or not? There you go. It is not 30. So we can either way go one by one, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and what not, to figure out how long the passport is actually. Or we can just send it to into the select the length of the passport, and in the payload type select number, and from 1 to 30, right? And once we select this, step count will be 1 only, start the attack. See what we are going to get over here? Can you see here? It is why it is both case. It shouldn't throw error at 30. Why it is showing an error? We might have made some mistake. Clear the syntax. Select add number payload. Resource. Okay, let's do that right now. Yeah. Okay. seems now we are on the point. Okay, so it is finished now. So till now I will scroll it down till 2022, and length I just do this. One thing that you need to remember, that in when you're performing intruder attack, it is always about length. With length you can identify the if you're returning 200 okay or if you're achieving a query, because the correct path will always have a different length than the false one. Okay, you need to remember this. Actually, this is really needed. So if you see over here at the payload number 20, or you can say this 90, it is 2451, and at 20 it is giving us an internal server error. It is giving 200 okay at 20, and at 90 it is giving us 200 okay, which means the length of the passport is greater than less than 20, like it is not more than 20, or it could be equal to 20, and the length of passport is greater than 19 and equal to 20. So now we are done with this. Length of the passport is 20. So once we identify the length of the passport is 20, next part is to find out what are the characters which is there in the password. So for that again we can use same command, but this time I have told you there is something called substring that we have talked about it, right? So substring is a part that specify the first character of the first database, like a password. Second character of the first database, data like a password. Third character of the first database. Fourth character of the first database. Fifth character of the first database. So this is how the substring command used. So in this case, what I'm gonna do, I'll be using substring command. So for that, what I'm gonna do, I'll be using single quote concat statement, close braces, open braces, select case when. Select when I'm going to start conditional statement. Then I'll specify sub str. Again, for SQL database we use substring. For Oracle database we use substr. Always remember this difference, right? Substring. Now, as I have specified substring, what I'm trying to gather? Password. What in password? I will be specifying 1, 1. First character of the first database. Close the braces, which equals to Rayofhope or close braces. Single quote close actually. Then close braces actually, right? So now I specify close braces, and then a statement 2 char. If the condition is true, it will throw an error. If I divide by 1, it equals to divided by 0, and then this else statement. Single quote in the case when. From what? From users table, right? Where what? Where username equals to what? Administrator. 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 Single, it should be between single quote because it's a string. Now close the and then concat the statement and hit enter. What response we are going to get? 200. Okay, that means it is not a character. R is not a first character of the password. So if I'm going to use 7, it is giving us 200. Okay, if I'm going to use W, it is still giving us 200. Okay, if I'm going to use 1, it is still giving 200. Okay, if I'm going to give 2, it is giving 200. Okay, if I'm going to use 3, it it is giving tornado. If I'm going to use 4, it is giving tornado. If I'm going to use 5, it is giving tornado. If I'm going to use 6, it is giving tornado. If I'm going to use 8, it is giving tornado. If I'm going to use 9. Okay, so this will take a lot of time. Just think, identifying 20 character one by one. Just think how much time it will take. So I'll just send it to the intruder. Now I have the request on the intruder. So what we have to do? We have to specify the first character. The first one I'm going to use over here, cluster bounding, because I have to play with 2 of the select statement. So I'll add this and then the character part, add this. Right? Now I have 2 positions. The first position is number, which I would be using numbers. We know that the length of the password is 20. So I'll be specifying 20. So it's 20 character. Steps will be 1. The payload count is 20. Now I'm going to use this, the second page. I'll be using like simple list, add from list A to Z, and then I'll select 0 to 9. The total number of requests it will generate, which would be 720. And I'll hit start attack. It will take probably a minute or less than a minute. Do we have any different length? Yes, we just saw one. Yes, we just saw 2. Do we have any more? Let it get completed. It seems my internet is not that good, or else it would have completed too fast. Okay, so this will complete probably in another 30 seconds. Let it get completed. We are about to solve this application, and finally we would have the password, and that is how we would be able to take the administrative account access. So just wait for a while. There we go. We just saw another 2. Oh, the number 10 and the number 11 both have both is D and D only. Do we have more? We just saw 1. Okay, let it go. It is almost half of the brute force has been done. It will take another few couple of seconds. Seems somewhere marriage is going on. It is almost 400 plus requests has been done. Let it get completed. It is about to be 500. We are almost done. Almost 600 requests has been brute forces. Seems we would take another few couple of seconds, probably 5 or 6. And we are almost done. Let's get to the top. Take 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Done. Again, I always tell you guys, it is always about length. It is always about length. Okay, So we have it is always about length actually. So when we see and count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. So we have 20 character. So now we have to count the length of the password. So for that, how we gonna do so? The first character is Q. So it was a Q first character. The second one is S. The third one is S. The fourth one is N. The fifth one is T. The sixth one is A. The seventh one is I. 8 is F. 9 is 2. 10 is D. 11 is D. 12 is T. 13 is X. 14 is C. 15 is 4. 16 is B. 17 is U. 18 is 9. 19 is E. 20 is N. So we have the password now. All we gonna do is select it from here, minimize this, get back to our lab, select my account. I have this. Select administrator username, select it and hit enter. There we go. Finally, we are able to solve the lab. Congratulations. I hope if you like this video, do like our channel and subscribe to Rayofhope. Thank you for watching.